Good morning. Welcome to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Gradick, your host. Delighted to have you with us this morning. It's another Monday morning. I think it's August 7th. I'm not really sure. I know it's 2017. And we are on the radio on 1330, 106.3 FM. We're also doing Facebook Live because, let me tell you why, because this is a very special program. We're honored to have in studio a longtime friend, a longtime servant of the people of West Georgia, in some respects somewhat of a hero. How about that? Shane Bell, paramedic. He's Director of Operations at West Georgia Ambulance Service. And I've got about 3 hours worth of questions for Shane that I want to talk about. But first, let me give you a short bio. Shane has been involved in the public safety for 30 years. Congratulations. And his career began in high school when he became a volunteer firefighter with the Tallapoosa, Georgia Fire Department. He then went to EMT school and worked with Miller EMS in Tallapoosa before joining West Georgia Ambulance Incorporated in 1989. After completing paramedic school in 1991, Shane worked his way through the ranks at West Georgia Ambulance and is now the Director of Operations. He's also actively involved with the Carroll County EMA. So good morning, Shane.
Good morning.
Well, thank you for coming in. Let's kind of jump right into it because I've got so many things that, to me, this is just such an important topic, and one that I'm just personally interested in. In news reporting, they always, give you the 5 questions: who, what, when, where, why, and how. Yeah. And so, tell me, first question: why did you become a paramedic?
Well, I kind of got thrown into it. I was already interested in the volunteer fire department part of it. And 1984, I had a brother that got killed in an automobile accident, and that thrust me right to where I'm at. So,
wow, that's kind of like my sister became a emergency room physician in response to my father had an incident years and years ago, and it inspired her.
Yeah.
So, do you have any regrets having done that?
Well, not really. I don't guess. It's been challenges through the years, but I really enjoy what I do.
Well, let's before we kind of get in the nuts and bolts of it, I think one thing I definitely wanted to ask, and we invite anybody has any questions to give us a call, 678-601-TALK, 678-601-8255, or you can post a question on the Facebook Live comment section. What would you, and I know you get this question a lot, so when you have a young person, a teen, or even someone in their 20-something, a millennial, that's thinking about a career path, what do you advise them in terms of becoming a paramedic? And, what's it take, and what would be a good way of, what's a good career path for them?
Well, the one thing is you just can't jump into this career path because of the training you have to have. So get with your technical school, or there's some local schools that teach EMT. You have to go through the EMT program before you can even be put on an ambulance to work.
How long does that take?
Most of the time now, it's between 9 months and a year right now.
Really?
Yeah, it's increased. There's EMT-B, which is the lowest level you can get through, probably 3 to 6 months, depending on the school. But most of it's going to be 9 months around that time frame.
Well, one thing. Let's stay on that for a minute. What can they expect when they get out in terms of this is This is not a 9-to-5 job, obviously.
No, it's 24/7, 365.
Period. Whether it's
Correct.
Christmas Eve or New Year's Eve. I mean, y'all are there if it's 4 a.m. in the morning.
Correct.
What can they expect when they get out? Let's say they go through that 1 year long program, and they get, is it called being certified or?
Yes, certification.
What can they expect when they get out? What's the like when they start out?
It can be a very rewarding career, or it can be a very detrimental career if you let it be. You've got to be in the right frame of mind to continue to do this job and do it well. A lot of people that get into this line of work don't stay in it long because of what they start to see once they get in, and the devastation from accidents, the sick people that we deal with every day, and it just gets to them. They can't handle it.
Well, my sister told me that you cannot completely, when you go home, you can't completely let go of what you've seen or done. Is that true?
That's kind of true. Yeah, it
So
depends on the situation, but most of the time, I've still got calls today that I can vividly tell you exactly what happened on that call.
So how do you live with that?
You have a good support system.
Meaning
Significant other, your crew members that work with you. The biggest thing I can tell people coming into the line of work is to talk to somebody. Don't keep it in, because if you bottle it up, it's just going to keep growing and growing, and it gets worse. You got to have somebody to talk to, somebody to vent it to. You just got to have a way to an avenue of getting it out.
So someone that goes through the program becomes certified. I mean, there's no way of knowing if you can live in that environment until you try it, right?
Well, during the training, you do have to do clinical rides with ambulance service, so they get a little bit of a taste of it there. Not the full taste of it by any means, but they get a little bit of a taste of it, and a lot of them, that's when you see them start falling out.
Mm-hmm. Do they get like the worst shift when they graduate?
Pretty much, yeah.
What is the worst shift? I guess that'd be Saturday nights from midnight to 6 a.m. or something.
Well, here lately, in the last few years, it's 24/7. I mean,
yeah. So are the shifts 12 hours long, or?
We have our 911 trucks, which are 5 primary trucks we have for 911, are 24 on, 48 off. So you work 24 hours and then you're off for 2 days.
Are you kidding me?
That's our shifts.
You stay out for 24 hours?
Well, we have places that they can
take a nap
if they get an opportunity to. So,
wow, that's just okay. But now you've got that's a good opportunity to elaborate on. I know we're kind of getting a little bit off track, but you've got base stations all throughout West Georgia, right?
Yeah, we got 5 ambulance stations throughout the county.
I know you built a new one in Bowden.
Yeah, we built a new one in Bowden. We built a new one a couple of years ago in Villarica. So we've updated a couple of them. We're trying to update them as we can go around and redo the stations, so make it a little more comfortable for everybody.
So with 5 stations, you should have a pretty good response time, correct?
We try to have, but our call volume has grown and grown and grown. So, call volume growing, that means our response times get a little longer. But
do you have an average right now?
We try to stay around the 9-minute mark.
Uh-huh.
But right now, days we meet it, days we don't. It's just depending on the call volume that's going on at the time.
So basically, as Carroll County grows and West Georgia grows, West Georgia Ambulance is going to need to grow too.
That's correct.
Okay. I'll tell you what, let's take a break and come back. And I've got a ton more questions for Shane Bell, our guest this morning, Paramedic, Director of Operations, West Georgia Ambulance. We'll be back with more after this from Tanner Health System.
Need help finding something healthy to eat? Tanner Health System has an app for that. Minuit helps you find healthy food options on the go. The smartphone app is powered by Tanner's health experts, who teamed up with restaurants across West Georgia to make it easier for you to choose healthy food and eat better. Minuit acts like your personal nutrition assistant, showing you the healthiest items on the menu. So when you're not sure what's good to eat, Minuit. You can even use the app to look up recipes and plan healthy meals at home, and modify your options based on nutritional preferences, such as a low-sodium or vegetarian diet. Minuit and Tanner Health System, making it easier to eat healthy and live well. A healthier lifestyle is only a fingertip away. Minuit is free to download on your Apple or Android smartphone. You can download it today by searching Minuit in the App Store or on Google Play. Learn more about Minuit at gethealthylivewell.org.
Good morning. Welcome back to the Community Voice. I'm Steve Graddick, your host. Delighted to have you with us this morning. Join us at 678-601-TALK or on Facebook Live. We're honored to have in studio Shane Bell, Director of Operations, West Georgia Ambulance Service. One question I've really wanted to ask, and I imagine, I'm sure all of y'all think about it, and particularly a young hire or a young recruit or young paramedic that's been certified. When you go to these accident scenes, crime scenes, etc. How much danger are you in, and what's the protocol on that?
We're in a lot of danger, and protocol is to put as much steel between us and the oncoming traffic as we can. There's been a lot of first responders hit and injured and killed throughout the years. That's why we have a move over law now in Georgia. You see lights flashing on the side of the road, you're supposed to move over as far as you can to the left-hand side of the road or the right-hand side, depending on which side they're on, which it was directly to help save lives, because we're out there walking around trying to take care of other people, and we're really concentrating on that. We're not concentrating on what's coming up from behind us. So we park vehicles between us and oncoming traffic. If it's bad enough, we'll shut a road down completely.
Wow. Well, okay, but now if you go to a criminal site and there have been shots fired, or it's a domestic and, there's a hostage or whatever, how do y'all, law enforcement has to go in first, right?
That's correct.
And then they kind of guide you into when you're to go in and provide assistance.
That's correct. They go in and what we call clear the scene. And once they get it cleared and safe for us to come in, then we'll come in and take care of the injured or whatever.
Back on the road situation, well, I know we've all seen it, and maybe some of us some time or other unintentionally have been guilty of it, but we've all seen the ambulance come up behind somebody with lights and sirens and horns and everything else, and the person is just like brain dead right in front of them. It's like, okay, is that person ever going to move? Tell us, because I know you've experienced this dozens of times now. How should people respond when they see an ambulance coming? Just get out of the way.
If it's got lights and flashing and sirens going, you need to pull to the right as far as you can safely, and come to a slow stop, not just a dead stop in the middle of the road.
Right.
And we see more and more people going to the left. Well, that's where we're supposed to be going, is to the left, and because you don't ever want to pass anybody on the right in that situation. So we're taught to go to the left, and when somebody else goes to the left, then we're there where we need to be. So pull to the right as much as possible, and slow down or stop if you can.
Now, is that whether y'all are running a siren or not? I mean, if you got lights going but no siren, what's the difference with that anyway, by the way?
State of Georgia, if you got the lights on, you're supposed to have your siren active.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, no kidding.
There are situations, depending on the traffic flow and where you're at, really. A lot of times on the interstates, you'll see us not running a siren because traffic's flowing.
Right.
But if it starts slowing down, you're going to hear that siren come back on.
But now, don't you have a big giant horn?
Oh, yeah. We can have air horns on most all of our trucks.
And when you get really where people need to get out of the way, you start blowing that air horn.
Yeah. We do anything we can to attract enough attention to people know we're coming.
But now, before you cross an intersection, you slow down to see the situation.
At an intersection, you're supposed to stop and clear that intersection lane by lane.
What's that mean?
You stop if you're coming up on a red light,
Yeah.
You don't just blow through there because somebody's going to hit you in the side.
Right.
You pull up there, you make sure everybody in that intersection sees you, and you go one lane at a time, checking both ways and make sure somebody's not coming and just hadn't paid attention to you.
But now you've also got the patient in the back. So you've got to take in consideration the status of the patient, what kind of condition they're in, and try to give them a smooth ride, right? You
do, and the smoother the ride, the better the ride, the better the outcome of the patient a lot of times. But if we don't get them to the hospital, we've not done our job.
Okay. Well, let me take that opportunity to ask you this. I really want to ask. Now, y'all are on we're sponsored by Tanner Health System, obviously, but you're on the radio to the ER department?
Yes, we have direct radio communications with the ERs. Most of the local ones especially are on our 800 megahertz systems, so they have a channel of their own. We have protocols that we work by, but if we need them for something outside those protocols or just to give them a heads up that we're coming in, we give them a call and let them know.
So how much medical training do y'all have?
A lot. Paramedics especially, that class now is about a year and a half on top of your EMT, and basically anything going on in the back of that truck could be going on in an emergency room going down the road. Now, we're not physicians by no means. We don't have that much training, but we've got enough training to know what's going on with everybody.
Now, wait, you said paramedic training on top of EMT.
That's correct.
So what's the difference?
EMTs, for the most part, it's basic care. There are some drugs that they can push for anaphylaxis and things of that nature. Paramedics have the full gamut, I guess you would say, of drugs and procedures and things that we can do to try to save a life. So,
as I mentioned, and I always throw it in because it's like she's the brains in the family, but I mean, I mentioned my sister was an ER doc, and with all due respect to ER docs, what real value do they provide over the radio if you've got that level of training?
They provide that extra skill and extra knowledge.
Because they're not there.
That's why you have to paint them a good picture of what's going on.
Okay, so tell me more how that works. I mean, because so they're on the radio, and you're saying we got this victim, age, blood pressure, whatever. Yeah. And so are they more confirming what you're doing than
they're not really confirming, but giving advice on what else we could be doing over what we're doing now.
Now, is part of that also just kind of prepping, letting them know what they've got coming?
It is.
So they're like getting everything set up to receive this patient with this condition.
That's correct.
Is that correct? I'm getting a lot of this right, I feel like, so I think I'll do it good.
You've been doing this a long time. You should.
Yeah, well, that's true. We've both been doing it a long time. Okay. Before we kind of get a little kind of not so serious question, are those ambulances hard to drive? They look like they got to be terrible to drive.
They're a little top heavy.
What's that? You've never turned one over, have you?
Yes.
You have, really?
I have. I've been in.
How many have you turned over?
I've been in one that's been upside down.
Really? Those things are not cheap.
No.
But they're insured, of course.
They are. But and it's not fun to turn one over. Trust me.
Wow. So they are a little top heavy. So you can't take those curves too quickly.
No, you got to, and we put our people through driver training.
Do they, you see on TV, do y'all go out to a racetrack and do a lot of spins in a Mercedes or something?
We have done that in the past.
Really?
But we've got kind of away from doing the high-speed things and got more to a controlled, how to control the vehicle instead of the how to drive it at high speeds.
Mm-hmm.
Neighboring county several years ago did a kind of a study that they did just on their own. They drove from one county line to the other county line on I-20.
Yeah.
One did emergency and the other one did non-emergency, and they got there basically at the same time.
Really?
So because of the driving emergencies gets everybody else around you upset and wanting to get in your way, and a lot of times it's easier just to slide right on through non-emergency and drive with a flow of traffic.
Well, that's interesting.
It was within a minute of one another being there, so. And I know a minute can mean a lot in our line of work, but
yeah, it can. Back on hard to drive, because you got these box truck things, and then you got these tall vans.
Right.
So are they pretty much similar in terms of how to drive?
Well, the vans drive a lot different because they are more top heavy than the boxes.
Okay.
The boxes have a little bit lower center of gravity because of the weight, and they're usually on a dual chassis truck, so they got a little more width to them.
Okay. All right. Well, it's time for our second break. We're going to take a break here from our good sponsor, our appropriate sponsor for this show, Tanner Health System. We'll be back with more after this.
In sports, when you play to win, you get your game on. Shouldn't the same be true when it comes to your health? At Tanner Health System, we're going to help you get your healthy on. Tanner is leading the way for you to eat better, get fit, manage or prevent diabetes, and live tobacco-free, so you and your family can get your healthy on every day. It all starts at gethealthylivewell.org. Check out upcoming healthy living events and join others in the community taking action to live well every day. GetHealthyLiveWell.org. Tanner Health System's way of helping you get your healthy on.
Need motivation and support to eat healthier, become more physically active, or quit tobacco? Tanner offers free classes to help you get your healthy on. Register today by calling 770-214-CARE. That's 770-214-CARE. Learn more at gethealthylivewell.org.
Good morning. Welcome back to Community Voice. I'm Steve Gradick, your host. This is a special program for me because I've wanted to have this gentleman on for several years and honored to have him in the studio. Shane Bell, Director of Operations, West Georgia Ambulance Service. Carroll County not only has ambulances, but we've got medical helicopters, and I think we have 2 providers. So, if you could elaborate on that.
Well, we do. We're one of the only counties in the state of Georgia that I know of that has 2 based in our county. 2 different companies.
You say we're the only one?
We're one of the only
one
ones.
Of them, okay.
I think there may be one in South Georgia somewhere that's
Wow.
got 2. For a long time, we didn't have anything, and as their industry grew and their numbers grew, they were putting helicopters all over the state of Georgia, and we still didn't have anything in our area closer than Atlanta. And one of their guys actually did a study, and he's a Harrelson alum too. So he was working with them at the time and did a study, and there was one point in the state of Georgia that was the furthest from a helicopter, and it was Bowden Junction, Georgia.
Really?
And so they looked and came into the county then, and through mergers and corporate stuff, we ended up with 2, then 1, then none again.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're back to two different companies here.
So when do you call for a medical helicopter? When are they called for?
Strokes that are in need of emergent care, especially the younger folks that all of a sudden start having symptoms. We've had a lot of good outcomes with that. Automobile accidents that people need to get to trauma centers because of their injuries. There's just a long list of things that we use them for. So,
with strokes, it is very time sensitive because they
Yes.
have medications that you have to take very quickly.
that's correct.
But that only applies to a minority of the patients who are having strokes, right?
If it depends on if it's what they call a clot stroke or a hemorrhagic stroke where they're actually bleeding.
Well, now Tanner's got ER rooms in Bremen, Carrollton, Villa-Rica.
Right.
So what's the difference between an ER facility and a trauma center?
Trauma centers have a lot more staff on duty to handle what's going on with that patient. They have specialty teams that are geared straight, directly towards trauma.
Right.
And Tanner doesn't have that resource in place here. So
Okay. All right.
we work great with them, and they're a good partner to have. But there's certain things that we send on to Atlanta just to get
Now,
for
the
time.
trauma centers in Atlanta are what? Atlanta Medical?
Atlanta Medical Center, Grady, they're the 2 level 1s. Of course, Children's is for the kids. Kennestone is a level 2. Floyd is a level 2. So we've got several around us, but they're 45 to 50 miles away by ground, and it's for time's sake. Helicopters get there a lot quicker than we can.
And they go, what, about 145 miles per hour or something like
145 to 160, I think, depending on model.
Yeah. And both of those are private companies, right?
They are.
Okay. All right. Let me ask you this, and this is a little bit of a vague question, but maybe because we're going to have to wrap it up, and I hate that, but, we hear the term first responder. From what I understand, Jimmy Carter came up with that term. So y'all describe yourselves as first responders.
We are part of the first responders, yes.
But isn't there a thought process that everybody, before you can get there, before law enforcement gets there, it's really the individual that needs to have some level of knowledge and thought and preparation even for an emergency situation. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. And the people out here that we deal with on a daily basis, a lot of them do have a little bit of first responder training, I guess you'd say. CPR, first aid, any of that you can get is a help, because that gives you some knowledge about what to do.
In other words, basically, it's going to be minutes before law enforcement or first responders or paramedics get there. And so, in a sense, that person, family member, whatever, is really the first responder.
They are.
And what kind of training would you recommend for the average Joe? Should we all know CPR? Should we all know first aid? What should we know?
I think if you've got anybody that has any kind of medical problems or possibility of it, first responder, or not first responder, first aid and CPR, if you can find a class, get in one. And we have some instructors on staff that do some classes. Fire department has folks that do classes, so they're out there to have. It takes about a few hours of a day to go through a CPR class, but it's something that can save a life.
How many employees are there at West Georgia Ambulance? Approximately.
Full-time, part-time, we're roughly around 65 to 70 employees now.
That big?
We are.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And the CEO is Steve Adams?
It is.
You want to say anything about Steve Adams?
Steve's been our backbone for years. He's a good guy. He
started in an ambulance. He's not just some investment guy, right? He's
correct.
He knows the turf.
He started out with Metro Ambulance, who was the county provider at the time. Worked with them, and then he bought the Carroll County operation from Metro, and that was in the mid '70s. And he's been here ever since.
But y'all make him look good, right?
We try to do our best.
Okay, sounds good. All right, I think we only got about 2 minutes left. Let's go out with you telling us, if you just in about a minute, tell us your most memorable kind of heartwarming story, or the thing that sticks with you over these years.
Well, I guess it's just helping the individual people. Like I said earlier, I've got calls that I vividly remember every little detail about what happened. Probably the one that sticks out the most was a 6-year-old kid that got hit by a car. And the outcome ended up not to be a good one, but we got him to the hospital and got him stabilized enough to get him to Children's. He died later there.
Right.
But that's one of the only times that I've had to take a step back and say, I need to go home for a little while. Right. And like I said, I can vividly remember everything we did on that call. And that's been probably 25 years ago. Our
gratitude this morning to Shane Bell, Director of Operations, West Georgia Ambulance, for 30 years of heroic service to the people of West Georgia and to all his colleagues there at West Georgia Ambulance Service. And we thank you for listening, and to Tanner Health System for sponsoring the Community Voice here on WLBB Carrollton.